Good evening, good evening, good evening, and welcome to One on One with Uncle David. I am your host, obviously, Uncle David, YouTube's favorite uncle. Thank you all for coming in. You can't hear me? You can hear me? Okay, cool. Hey, again, welcome. On February 23rd, I had a guest on. Her name was Olivia Fox, and she talked about life as a receiving an organ, and she received a kidney, and she talked about how grateful she was, and she talked about the entire experience. Well, tonight, and she received the kidney from one of her great good friends, and tonight I have the honor of being able to bring him on, and he will share with us his journey from deciding to donate the kidney to everything that they went through, the entire process, and his life after uh, the kidney donation. So, without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Mike Green. Good evening, Mike. How are you?
Good evening, Uncle Dave. How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for coming on. I greatly appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
Oh yeah. Now, before we get started, if you could just, give people a little overview about you. Where you're from,
Okay,
what you do.
I am originally from Brooklyn, New York. Um, Currently, that's where I reside. Um, I am 49 years old, and I am a records administrator for a credit ratings agency.
Okay. And wow. So let's see. I guess we'll go ahead and get started. How did you? Well, I know that. How long have you known Olivia?
Oh God. At this point, it's over 20 years now. At this point,
Okay.
we met in 1997. Um, we met in 97. The radio station that she was working for at the time, they one of the on air personalities there was doing a trip to Jamaica,
Uh huh.
and I was on that trip. And that day, we were scheduled to leave out of BWI at around 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock that morning,
Hmm.
but our plane broke down before we
Wow.
even got on it. So
Okay. That's a good
we
thing.
right, we were stuck in the airport for a full day. We were stuck in the airport for about 8 hours because they had to fly a plane up from Jamaica to get us to fly us back
Wow.
down to Jamaica.
Wow.
So during that time, they were doing broadcasts from the airport, and Olivia and I met in the airport, and we just started talking at the airport. And when we got on the plane, she was in the seat in front of me, so we were cracking jokes all the way down on the plane. Um, and then when we got to the resort in Jamaica, she and we were just running around the whole resort together.
Well, that's
And
good.
then from there, we just remained friends ever since that.
Okay. So, and so, what was the? Because she said she didn't know what was going on behind the scenes. She got sick. All she knew is that she needed to get well. They told her that, I think she said they told her that, she could get up if she got a transplant, she'd be okay. But it's not like she was advertising it or, saying, I don't believe she was going out asking people. She was just in survival mode and living her life.
Right.
How did you decide, well, what was your process within you to say, okay, I'm gonna do this? And did you ask her or tell her or hint to her that okay, maybe I'm gonna try this and
Nope, nope. There was no hints. Well, even before that happened, I want to say I was one of those people who was dead set against doing organ donations.
Okay.
I was that guy like, no, I'm not giving up any of my organs for anything. No, it's going with me. I was that guy. so so when I found out that Olivia was sick, she actually did a YouTube video, and it was a very detailed documentation about the day in her life. From going to the radio station, then from the radio station going to dialysis, then picking up her daughter, doing all those things, and it was really touching. It was really moving because I didn't, this was my friend, but she never let on to anybody how sick she was.
Wow.
And that was the first time that I ever saw that how sick she was. And I was like, wow, this is crazy. And then during that time, she's a single mom. So it was like, okay, she has this young daughter and she's sick. You know, somebody has to do something to help her.
Right.
And from there, I think she sent out an email to all her friends and family, just said, to let them know that she's looking for, maybe a living donor.
Okay.
And she relayed some information on who to contact at the University of Maryland in Baltimore. That's the hospital that we had our transplant at.
Okay.
And so on a humble, I called the transplant coordinator, who was my transplant coordinator, um, and reached out to her to see, what the steps would be to just get tested to see if I would be a match. Not thinking that I was going to be a match because I didn't even know what my blood type was. So
And a lot of us don't know. We
right, right,
we don't know. It's like
right,
it's red. It's red.
right.
It's
It's
all
red, right. It just
yeah.
comes out red. You know, it's red and it's healthy. So
Uh-huh.
that's
Exactly.
that's all I knew. So the coordinator set everything up for me to do my testing here in New York, and I went to Quest Diagnostics, and they drew about 12 vials of blood from me,
Hmm.
and that happened in August of 2011.
Okay.
So August 2011, I gave blood. So some time went by, like a couple of months went by, and now it's like the beginning of October. And one day I was just sitting at my desk. I was just sitting at my desk at work, and I just said, it just clicked with me. I was like, wait a minute, I never got my results back on whether or not if I was a match or anything. And sure enough, after I had that thought, the kidney coordinator called me and said, "Hey, you're a match." And
Mm.
I was like, "A match for what?"
You forgot.
I did. Just that quick, I forgot. And then that's when I found out that I have, I'm B plus. I have the universal blood type, so I can donate blood to anybody. I can give
Okay.
my blood to anybody. So she said if you want to proceed, call Olivia up, talk to her and see what she wanted to do. And I was like, okay, wow. So, and this all happened before my lunch break. So I remember, yeah, I remember it well. It was right before my lunch break. So it was around close to 1 o'clock. And when I went to lunch, I called her. She didn't answer the phone the first time I called her. I was like, okay, she gonna answer this phone. I got some news for her. So I called her again, and she finally picked up, and she was like, "Hey, how's it going?" I said, me not thinking that, I'm thinking she's in the house,
Right.
and I said, "Hey, are you sitting down?" And she was like, "Yeah, I'm sitting down," but I'm not thinking she's in the car driving.
Of course not.
And and I told her that I was a match, and she literally just started screaming on the phone. She's like,
Wow.
"Oh my god! Oh my god!" So I was like, yes. And then next thing I know, she just started. I said, "Where are you?" And she's like, that's when she told me she was in the car. I was like, oh my God, please don't crash. Please don't crash on the
Not
highway.
now.
She was like, no, no. She's like, I'm pulling over. I'm pulling over because she started like crying hysterically on the phone. So she said, I'm pulling over and I'll call you back. I was like, okay, fine. So, about 15, 20 minutes went by and she called me back and she's like, are you serious? She was like, I was like, yes, I'm a match. If you want to do the kidney surgery, I'm more than welcome to, donate my kidney to you. And,
Wow.
started crying again,
Of course.
it was
Of
right,
course.
right.
I
So,
can only imagine what that feeling was like for her. Because like
right.
when we talked earlier, we talked about how, there are people that they won't sign the card to become a donor even after they die. So imagine someone saying,
That was
okay,
me.
yeah,
That was me.
yeah, I used to be their way too, but then I started thinking that, well, what am I going? I can't do anything with it, and if it can help someone else, then okay. So I had no problem after the once I got my driver's license renewed, and that
Hmm.
question came up. I had a better understanding of what it was because when I first got my license, I was maybe like 18. So at 18, you're like, what do you mean? Give no way,
Right.
so and then now people they're living and they're like you know you call them up or it's like they nah I can't they don't understand, some of them don't understand that you can live with one kidney,
Hmm.
um and a lot of them think that okay, this is going to be the end of my life, or they're just selfish, or
Right.
some just don't understand you know what that means to the other person.
Right.
So, for you to do that and the whole process of going through that without letting her know, and it's like okay, she has no idea that this is happening, and then all of a sudden you call and say, hey, you know that thing about the kidney, I got one, you can have it, and I can
Right.
imagine the joy and that
Yeah.
she experienced.
It was definitely a joyful moment for both of us because I knew that I could help her. Um, I didn't know, what the process was going to be, once we decided to go forward. But it didn't matter to me. Like my main goal was just to make sure that she was going to be there for her daughter. Because at the end of the
Right.
day, you know, Nina, I think at that time Nina was like 8, 7 or 8.
Wow. Yeah.
Nina was really
Yeah.
young, and Nina was a very active
Mhm.
little girl. Like
And she still is. It's like
right. She had a lot, she had a lot of energy, she was starting to run track and stuff.
mhm,
So, it was like, watching her, you know, make sure that Nina was, getting the things that she wanted to do, that also played heavy on my heart because I was like, for this little girl not to have her mother, at important times of her life, going through high school, graduating from high school, getting married, those I said,
mhm,
no little girl should be without a mother,
true.
at a young age. So that was my main motivation, for helping her because I didn't want to see, Nina without her mother, you know, down the line.
Okay.
So
I mean that's wow. It's heavy,
mhm.
and it kind of lets you know. And for me, yeah, there are bad people. There are bad things that happen, and not everybody is good, but to know that there are people that are willing to make sacrifices, and it's not like giving up a few $100s, or you're spending a little bit of time. It is actually like a physical giving of a body part, and
Right.
having to, I mean, how did you come to that? I mean, other than the motivation for with there being a daughter, um before that, what else was there? Anything else that you thought about before the during the process, like
Um,
the getting ready for the actual surgery and everything?
Well, after going through the process, you have to go through testing every month. So that's blood testing every month. So you get blood tested all the way up into till the day of the surgery.
Okay.
So they're testing you constantly. Um, during that time, there's visits with you go down to visit with the coordinator. Met with the coordinator a couple of times, and they had to go through. I had to do EKG testing, um, CAT scan to see how healthy my kidney was. And during this process, you will find out how truly healthy you are.
I would imagine they probably check everything from
Everything
that.
that you can think of, they test you for, and they want to make sure that there are no hiccups in your body before you go into surgery.
Okay.
Zero hiccups.
Yeah, because
Um,
I would imagine you have to be completely healthy.
yes,
not just her, but you, because if there's a problem with your kidney or something going on in your body, it filters through the kidney, and so we got to make sure
right,
that it's up to par, and everything. All our I's are dotted and T's are crossed.
right. So from there, then there's a couple of meetings with the psychologists. Now, for donors, that's a different process for the donee.
Okay.
Um, we have to go like the psychologist takes you through all the mental aspects. The one thing that they drilled into both our heads was death. They
Okay.
weren't telling us about the good results of it. No, it was death, death, death. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. You're gonna die. They drilled that into your head. So it was so many people telling us that we wouldn't make it through the surgery. But that was their job because they didn't want you to be, what's the word I'm looking for? They didn't want you to have the rosy picture of
Okay.
the end result. They wanted you to know what
The other
the
side.
bad side of the surgery could happen. And I was like, okay. so so then
Now,
from there it was for me, they pretty much drew up a letter, basically saying, at any time if I wanted to opt out of this, they would write up like a fake excuse saying that I know, I can't, I'm no longer qualified to
okay,
to
so
be donor.
they they wouldn't tell her that, they wouldn't tell the other person that, okay, he was just scared and
Right.
he
They
didn't
didn't
want to
they
do
didn't
it.
want they wouldn't say that I pumped out. Right. Right.
Okay. Okay. They
Right.
wanted you to have some kind of dignity.
Right.
Now
Right.
now
They wanted to make it look politically correct.
okay.
So
Now, was there any trepidation on your part during that part of the process when they're telling you that, okay, dude, you're gonna die. You may not make this. This might not happen. You're not gonna come out. It's not gonna come out good. Was there any trepidation for you, or was it like, okay, I'm in it, and I'm doing this no matter what?
that's the funny part. I was never scared for me. I was never, even up to the point of surgery day, I was never scared for me. I was more scared for her because I was in my head, I was like, okay, well, what happens if her body rejects my kidney? That was all that was going through my head. Like I was more scared for her than I was for myself, but
Okay.
I wasn't, backing out for any reason. I said, well, we just gonna leave it in the Lord's hands and let him handle it, and we're gonna go from there.
Okay. Well, again, it takes a brave and giving person to actually be wanting to do that. Now, once you got to the point of, okay, you've gone through all the testing, and what was the day of, okay, the night before the surgery? Let's start there and we'll move on into the day of.
Okay, so the night before the surgery, um, the hospital, this is the other part. The hospital takes care of the donors 100%. We don't come out the pocket for nothing. Travel expenses, hotel, food, all that is covered by the program, the kidney
Okay.
program. So the donor doesn't have to come out of pocket for any expenses whatsoever. Um, so the night before the surgery, they put us up in a hotel, like a couple of blocks from the hospital, and we both had separate rooms. And I remember I had, my mom came down, and her mom was here, and then we had a couple other friends that were all down at the hotel with us, and we all went into Olivia's room that night, and we just had a nice little laugh and joke session, and then my mother said a prayer for us that night, and yeah, we were ready. So next morning, 5 a.m., we were leaving the hotel and on our way down the block to the hospital. So
Wow.
the day of the surgery, they had us both. We were both in the prep room, with our family and friends all around us at that time. And the anesthesiologist came in and started prepping our arms and stuff for the IVs and stuff. And they prepped me first, but I didn't know that he was actually giving me drugs at the same time. So I was
Ah.
so I was like, okay. I started feeling funny.
Right.
So so we they took me out first. And as I'm leaving, I remember this, as I'm leaving out of the room that we were in, they're wheeling me down the hallway, and I'm just high fiving everybody. Everybody's in the hallway. I'm just high fiving everybody as I'm going into the operating room. And I
Now,
don't
now
even
was
remember. All I remember was I got into the operating room, and they had this huge TV. It had to be about 90 inches. It was huge. Never
uh-huh.
saw a TV this big before. And it had my screen, it had my name on the screen, and it was a camera focused on the table. I said, okay, that's kind of cool. And and I remember them putting me on the table, and then after that,
Yeah, it
I was
was like
out.
lights out. Yeah,
It was lights
that
out.
when they were, I guess, when you had you in the room and they were pumping you with drugs, those were the things that were going to, make you feel kind of, So if you had any thoughts of backing out at that point, nah, it's not
No,
happening.
actually, they didn't at the time. They didn't even. They had a live. They I remember they prepped Olivia's arm with the IV. They didn't prep my
Uh-huh.
arm yet. The anesthesiologist came with the mask to fit on my face. He was. I guess he
Okay.
called himself fitting my face for the mask or whatever, the oxygen mask. And he put it on my face, and he's like, take a breath so I can see if it worked. Me not knowing that there's drugs in this mask. so
Oh,
i
okay.
so I took a deep breath in. The drugs were in me. And next thing I was out. So
Wow.
my surgery lasted for about a good 6 hours. I
Wow.
didn't get out of surgery until about noonish. And when I woke up, well, when they tried to wake me up, I was sleeping so good. The nurse was like threatening me. The nurse was like threatening me to wake up. And I was like, I don't know. I'm kind of sleepy. She was like, Mr. Green, wake up. Because I kept dozing back off. And she was
Uh-huh.
like, if I have to come back over here one more time, it's gonna be me and
Mm,
you. Like, she threatened me. Like, she
wow.
literally threatened me. I was like, wow, I'm scared of you.
Okay. I'm woke now. I'm woke. I got it.
Yeah, I
Okay.
was like, I'm scared.
Now,
So
what
now
was
it's
the recovery process? Or was there
um the recovery process actually wasn't. Oh, actually, let me go back. So when we went to see our doctors, the doctor who was supposed to operate on me
Mhm.
did not operate. So the day of the surgery, some new doctor that
Ooh.
I've never met came walking in to introduce himself, and we're looking at him like, "Who are
Hey,
you?"
yeah, what are you doing here?
Right. And then and then he came in cracking jokes, saying, "Aren't you here for a vasectomy?" And I was
Oh,
like,
okay,
uh,
yeah, okay, yes.
no, wrong room, wrong, wrong room. That's Mr. Johnson down 2 doors.
Not here. Mine's a little more
Yeah. So originally they told me, so when they do kidney surgeries, they put 3 holes in your side for the probes, and then they'll do a small incision underneath your belly button to remove the kidney. Well, that's what they told me originally when I was meeting with the doctor that was supposed to do my surgery. That's how they were going to take my kidney out.
Okay.
Didn't happen that way. I I am glad they did it the way they did. Because today I'm so grateful. Um, they actually took my kidney out through my belly button.
Okay. Th-
That's a
Well, wait a
new
minute.
that. Mhm.
Okay, so okay, okay. No,
Yeah, look
because
at your
I'm
belly
trying.
button.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I'm sitting here now. I'm feeling it. I'm like, okay, so a kidney comes. You can okay, all right.
That's a new procedure. That's a new procedure that they just at that time that they just started doing. Um, is less invasive. It's a easy recovery, um, and less painful.
Okay,
But I didn't know this. I didn't know this. So when I got out of recovery and they finally moved me up to my room, the next that Friday, because our surgery was on a Friday, it was Good Friday at that time as well. So that Friday I didn't, I didn't do anything because I was still hooked up to the catheter and I was still hooked up to the IV. So I couldn't really, and I had these airbags on my legs to prevent me from having blood clots.
mm-hmm.
So I couldn't really move on Friday. So Saturday morning, they took all that stuff off of me, and then I finally, went to the bathroom for the first time, and I'm sitting, even when I was laying in bed, I was like, I'm not in a lot of pain. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
I wonder where this, where they cut me at because I don't feel anything. And I didn't know if that was the morphine or nothing or not because I was clicking that morphine button whenever I
Okay.
had a chance. So when I finally went to the bathroom, well, actually, the doctor came in that morning and he looked at my the incision wound. He was like, "Oh, it's healing pretty good." I was like, "Okay, can I see? I want to see." So I got up and went into the bathroom, and I like finally lifted up the gown, and all I see is this little gauze pad over my belly button with some tape.
Right.
So I'm just sitting there looking on my sides, like,
You're looking for this
where
big
did they
giant.
I'm like, where did they cut me at? Where did they do this surgery at? I don't have no. I'm like feeling on my back and trying to find out if they cut me on my back, and I could not find out where they cut me. So the nurse finally came in. I said to the nurse, I said, "Excuse me, where did they take my kidney from?" And she said, "You don't know?" I said, "No." She said, "They went through your belly button." I was like, "My belly button? How they do
Wow.
that?" I said, and then when I told Olivia that, she was like, "That your belly button? Like they do that?"
I'm like, because I know I had a heart attack back in 2010. And from working at a hospital, I know down at the cath lab, they would go through your growing. And
Hmm.
so, they were prepping me for that. And the doctor's like, no, 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 no. I'm like, well, what is he gonna do? He said, we have a new procedure where they go through the wrist,
Hmm.
which is it's like, as you say, less evasive. And the recovery, because when they go through the growing, they have to put these big, after they're done, they have to put these big um heavy bags on you, these weights, almost like the weights that you put around your
Hmm.
ankles. They have to put
Hmm.
those on the growing area, and so you can't move. You have to lay there for about an hour or so before you can move. But when they went through my wrist, it was like, okay, we went through it. He got the blockage out. He pulled the probe out and inserted the stent, and that was it. He put a band-aid over. He pressed it down for a few minutes. He put a band-aid on it, and it was like, it's like getting a needle. And I'm like, this is pretty cool. And I'm like, why didn't
Right.
But I was glad, like you said, I was glad they did it because the recovery is a lot easier, and it was probably a lot better as opposed to them going in through your back, and probably the cut is probably like and all of that
Yeah, and
stuff.
the thing
So
about it is like my like the doctor who was on call that Saturday, that morning, he cut all my drugs off for the day. He cut my food supply off for the day. He was trying to send me home that day.
wow,
He was trying to Now mind you, I'm still in a little bit of pain, and he
right.
was trying to kick me out the hospital. I said, no, I'm not going home today. I said, I'm
Nah,
not.
this ain't gonna work, buddy.
You gonna have to re up my morphine and give me some food because I'm starving. Like I didn't eat all day. It was just horrible. And at that point I wasn't even walking yet. So I was like,
Yeah, right. We're
I
not
was like,
going anywhere. I can't. Yeah.
this is crazy. So
Now, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
Well, since after the now that after you got through the recovery, and how is life now?
Um, life
Um,
is life is good. 9 years later, and the fact that my kidney is still going strong in Olivia is amazing.
yes,
Considering
yes,
considering that they told us that the kidney would only last for about 6 or 7 years, and for it to be 9 years later and it's still functioning
going.
strong,
Hmm.
and that's amazing. That is amazing.
Yeah,
Um,
and I
and that's a
understand you
testament
had.
to her because she's also she's been taking care of herself. She hasn't
Yes,
done
yes. She
anything to to
don't play
to
around with
damage
that.
the kidney. Right. Because
She
that was the
don't
other
play
thing. That was
around
the
with it.
other thing that the psychologist, in our session, that was one of the things that the psychologist said to me. One of the questions was, "How would you feel if the person that you are donating your organ to, um, just destroys, this new kidney? How would that
Wasted
make you
it
feel?"
away.
Right. And she's like, "How would that make you feel?" And I said, "Well, that would be on her
Hmm.
because she chose to destroy this second chance at life, so that would
Hmm.
be on her. um I would feel a little disappointed that she went that route, but at the end of the day, that was her choice.
Right,
you know there's nothing I can do. Like I'm not going to say, oh, I'm just going to go beat her up for
right.
for destroying my kidney. That was her choice.
Yeah,
So,
and
but
even still, what you can't. It's not like you can go back and say, "Hey, all right, can you give my
right, can
kidney
I get
back?"
that back?
You really didn't use it, though. But can I have it back? We can't put it
Right,
back. So,
you
at
can't put
that
it
point,
back. I'm like, so it was nothing I could do about it. Like if it happened, it happened. But I knew that wasn't going to be the case with her. I knew that,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know, she
yeah.
was going to take good care of herself, because
Now,
she didn't want to go back to dialysis. And I didn't
no,
want to see her
no,
go back to
no,
dialysis.
no. I've seen people go through dialysis. My mother-in-law, my father-in-law, my father. I've seen how it it can wear on you, um, and you're already sick, and it's just like draining. And I
Hmm.
don't care how strong and powerful you are, eventually, it will take its toll, on your body, because it's your body was not designed for these things to happen. It's not a natural process. So when
Right.
you have a machine tugging and pulling and draining you, it's not the
Hmm.
same. So eventually it will wear your body. Now I understand you contracted COVID,
Yes.
and
This time last year, March, I was in the first wave that caught that caught COVID. I was hospitalized for 7 days. So it was definitely hard. It almost killed me twice.
wow.
Um, The first day that I got into the hospital, well, actually, I went to the doctor because I didn't know I was sick, but I didn't know
What it
that I
was.
actually had COVID. And the doctor ran all these tests, and he said, if the pneumonia and the bronchitis test comes back negative, then that means you most likely will have COVID. So he went out the room to check the last test. While he's out the room checking the last test, I'm waiting for him to come back. But he's on the phone with the health department, calling the health department, telling the health department that he has a patient who has COVID. And the health department sent over an ambulance to put me into the hospital.
Mm.
And I didn't know that they were coming to get me. These two
Oh,
guys in
so
spacesuits just walked in the room and was
goodness. So
like, "Mr.
nobody
Green."
told you you're coming
Yeah,
with
nothing.
us.
Yeah. So you see two guys in the spacesuit, you like
Yeah.
you looking at them kind of funny, like, what's going
Yeah,
on?
like, uh-huh.
And I was like, okay. And they told me they would take me to the hospital. It was a strong chance I had COVID. And yeah, I got into the hospital, and the virus dehydrated me so bad. Um, in the hospital, they had to insert two IVs in both my arms to
Wow.
get fluids into me quickly. And I remember the ICU doctors came down, and they were telling me that they were going to put me in ICU. Um, and once a bed becomes available, and that was when they did that. That was around 5 o'clock, and I was like, okay. So after the IVs finished, they were waiting for the IVs to finish before they moved me upstairs. And then once IVs were finished, the nurse said he called transport, and I guess somewhere along the lines, my vitals got better, and they moved me upstairs to a regular room, which was the hospice wing of the hospital,
Oh.
which which really freaked
Ooh.
me out
Ooh.
because I
What are you
said to the nurse,
what are you telling me?
I said, why am I in the hospice wing? Are y'all trying to tell me I'm not going to make it? Like, why am I in the hospice wing? And she was like, no, no, no. This, we there's no more hospice. This is now the COVID wing of the hospital. So all COVID patients will be coming here because the hospice wing was isolated from the rest of the hospital. So
Okay.
that's why
Yeah.
they put.
Yeah. I
So I
mean, I'm
was
sure
in.
that was comforting, but you probably had
Yeah,
to hear it a couple of more times,
yeah,
because yeah, it's like, okay, this is what you're telling me. Are you is this,
right,
is this really the truth? You probably ask
right.
somebody else, like, hey,
And it didn't help either because they had me hooked up to a heart monitor, and
oh,
I had the IVs, I had all this beeping going on in my room. So
and you're probably
and then
thinking, this is it.
right, and then on top of that, I'm locked into the room, so I'm not, I can't go
Oh,
out the room. So
wow.
because they didn't, back then they didn't say that you would be isolated.
Hmm.
You couldn't go out your room. They never told you that.
Oh,
And finally, when my COVID test came back that Monday, and they told me I had COVID, that's when I was like, oh, I'm stuck.
mm.
I'm stuck.
So
And
that was
yeah,
isolation. Like, okay,
yeah. It was very traumatic. It was very traumatic. Didn't really sleep that much because I had a severe cough, so that
hmm
that kept me all night. And then on top of that, the nurses were coming in checking my vitals, all throughout the hour. So it was a lot. And
yeah,
then the second time um, was when the virus actually started attacking me, and
mm.
I was on the phone talking to a friend, and this was around right after I ate dinner, so it was around 7 o'clock. And next thing I know, I just started feeling my chest getting really, really tight. And I started seeing like stars.
Ooh.
So I pressed the button for the nurse to come in. The nurse came in and she started checking my vitals, and she saw that my vitals were steadily going in the wrong direction. And they paged the doctor to come. The doctor took forever to come. The
Of
nurse
course.
and the nurse, and the tech. I'm now sitting at the edge of the bed, and they're literally holding me up on both my arms so that I wouldn't fall. That's how I was in so much pain, and I was struggling to breathe. It was a lot going on. And when the doctor came in, she literally stood 12 feet away from me. She barely came in the door. and
Mm.
they're telling her what my vitals are, and her response was, "Oh, he's just having a panic attack."
Wow. Really?
And
That's the bet you got?
that because she was scared. She was scared because she didn't want to come near me because I had COVID. She was scared. But mind you, she had on more protective gear than the nurse and the tech that was holding me up.
Man,
And
that's crazy. That's
and a lot of the doctors back then were really scared to go around COVID patients. And it was a very rough time being in the hospital, because not only were they scared to come around me, they were giving me all types of experimental drugs. I was on the
mm,
hydroxychloroquine, that didn't do nothing. I think that contributed to my long haul symptoms.
okay.
um it was a lot. But I was glad that I was able to get out of the hospital after the seventh day, because everybody that came in after me that was in that hospital didn't make
Mm.
it.
Wow. Wow. Now, did the fact that you only had one kidney, did that play a role? Did that exacerbate or
Yes, that
the
did play a role. That did play
okay.
a role. um because my kidney was working extra hard to fight the virus.
Okay.
And and they constantly had I had to constantly have an IV with the it was a special med that they put in to help my kidney stay protected.
Okay.
So I must have went through at least 20 bags of IV, or maybe more, um in those 7 days, because I,
Wow.
I I went through like 3 or 4 bags a day.
Wow. Now, are there still effects, after effects of COVID, that the short term, or is it like really long term, the after effects?
It's pretty much long term now. As a result, it gave me an autoimmune disorder.
Hmm.
So it is weird because it is triggered by multiple things. Stress. If I decide to do like exercising or like anything physical, it get
Hmm.
that autoimmune disorder gets triggered, and it like really wipes me out. It makes me fatigued. And then with all COVID patients that who have long haul symptoms, one thing that we suffer from is there's this tingling sensation that you feel in your arms, your face, your tongue, your head. Like it's a intense tingling sensation. It's like your whole face, like when you sleep on your arm and you get that numbing sensation.
Hmm.
Put put a level 10 on that, and that's what it feels like. It's real
Right.
intense, real intense.
Wow.
And then
You know,
I still have my lungs aren't damaged, but they were severely bruised, I guess. That's the
okay.
way to call it. So it's taken a long time for my lungs to heal. My lungs are like slowly healing, but
you can
it's
yeah,
getting there.
okay. So that autoimmune thing, that's going to be there from now until.
Yeah, that's permanent. That's
Okay.
permanent. I
Wow.
mean, I have things, I'm in a research, I'm in a COVID research program here in New York, and they've done, they've given me more information about my long haul symptoms than my own primary doctor.
Ah, okay.
Like I cut my primary doctor off because she wasn't giving me the proper care that I needed, because I was after I got out the hospital, I didn't know I was having these long haul symptoms, but I didn't know what it was,
Right.
and nobody could tell me what was going on, because all my test results were coming back normal. They're like, you're fine, nothing's wrong.
Of
But
course.
I knew something was wrong because my body was off,
Yeah.
and I must have went to the hospital at least once a week in the whole month of May. Like, I was going to the hospital every week because I was in so much pain, and I didn't understand why I was in so much pain, and nobody was telling me what was wrong. And then I finally, my sister saw a news article where Mount Sinai was doing COVID research program, and they were encouraging people to come in to enroll into the program, and I rolled into the program, and they did a couple of tests, and instantly they knew what was the problem. And come to find out, I still had the virus broke off and got into my blood system. So I had
Mm,
inflammation markers. I had inflammation markers all around the muscle tissue around my heart. And that was what was causing all of the pain and suffering that I was going through.
wow. Now, I'm going to ask you a question, kind of put you on the spot. Um, Given all that you have gone through, do you regret the decision?
No, no. I would do it again in a heartbeat.
See, that that is the sign of not only a true friend, but a truly unselfish person. I commend you. Um, I, I I commend you. I mean, because you don't find that all the time. You
Hmm.
have people that they will give to a certain limit, and then it's like, okay, I can't cross that line. It's just not in me, and it's understandable, because
Hmm.
everybody's not built to do everything, and everybody can't handle everything.
Right.
But you are in a class by yourself. Well, there are others, but you understand what I'm saying. You are in
Yeah.
the class where you don't find a lot of those people. I know one other person that is a living donor, and she is one of the most giving and kind-hearted people. So
Hmm.
these people, they're rare. You have
Right.
good people, but you have those that will go beyond, above and beyond.
Hmm. I
So
have a
and
friend here. I have a friend here in New York who gave his kidney to his wife, and was helping his wife because she had lupus. So he
mhm,
donated his kidney to her, and they actually had their surgery a few months before I did. So he was my go-to in terms of how he was feeling after the
okay,
surgery. So we were sharing experiences, and going through what
yeah,
his
and
surgery was like versus mine. He actually got the surgery where I said, with the three probes in the side and the
okay.
cut underneath the belly button. He got that type of surgery, whereas I
Ah,
got it
okay.
belly button.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Hmm.
Well, this I want to thank my audience. I guess this is the point where we have some questions and answers before we get out of here. If anybody has any questions, the people on Facebook, thank you all for coming through as well. Well, they're all gone now, but got a few people here. They on Facebook they come, they go. They're like, "Hey,
They
I'm
come and
here,"
go,
and
right?
then Yeah, but I've got
But they'll go
few
back and
people
look
here
at it later.
oh yeah, I have a few people that are here on YouTube. If you have a question for Mike, feel free to put it in the chat. Okay, I think maybe we might have covered everything. So maybe they
I'm pretty sure there's a question about the
got
process
him. One
because
question.
I just briefly touched on a little bit of the process, but like I said, the one thing that anybody who's thinking about doing donation is that you will never have to worry about coming out your pocket for anything financial. It's covered under the donor's insurance. Um, so you're good. If anything ever happens to you and your kidney during, once you given up your kidney, you
Hmm.
automatically go to the top of the list for
Okay.
for a transplant. So it's not like, oh my God, my kidney's failing and I have to wait on the list to get a new one. No, they instantly put you at the top of the line. So
I,
so
I
you're
I know for me, it wouldn't necessarily be the financial thing. It would probably be the mental,
mhm,
getting past, you know, because like I said, I am I signed up to be an organ donor. And so
mhm.
when I'm gone, you don't know then what's happening, but look who's here. Love you, Mikey. Olivia's in the audience. Hey, Olivia, thank you for coming through. Yeah, we were just talking about you and how crazy you are, but that's another story, but but like I was telling you earlier when we were talking, when you give something to someone and they show their appreciation and not just what they say, it's what they do, it's the energy that they
Mhm.
give you, and it makes you feel like, okay, I did the right thing. You say,
Right, right.
one of my or she said, God bless you, Mike. We all have a purpose on earth, and you showed us just that. I commend you, and I'm glad that you chose Unc's channel to share your story. And then Olivia said, thank you so much for sharing your testimony. I think more people will understand the process because of you. Yeah, I hope so. Again, I thank you for coming on and sharing your story. Um,
Thank you for having me.
oh, it was my absolute pleasure. Um, I will be in touch because I just I'm going to drop you because I need to let Olivia know too. I have a gentleman, my cousin, who has a clothing apparel, and he's offering a gift to all the guests on the show. So I'll
Oh,
send
okay.
you. Olivia says I would come on, but my hair is a mess. Okay, that's all right, Olivia. I tell you what, we're going to have another show on April the 6th next year, and then we'll do this all together. So now you've got a whole year to get your hair together, and I don't want to hear no excuses. So we'll do the anniversary here, and you can share some more of your stories. Again, I appreciate you. I thank you, and I wish you
Good.
well and um, a more and that you continue to recover and get well. The
Thank you.
most
Thank
selfless
you.
act a human being can do for another. Yes,
Thank you
yes.
so much.
Alrighty, and thank you. And again, I'll send you the information. It's in the description, but I'll DM you with the information for the clothing apparel, and I have to make sure I send it to Olivia too because I'm probably sure she's gonna let me hear it. So
Okay, sounds
again,
good.
all right, thank you so much, and you take care, and I will see you later.
Thank you. Stay safe.
All right, you too. Again, ladies and gentlemen, that was Mike Green. He is a living organ donor. His donee is in the chat, Miss Olivia Fox. As you all know, she was here on February 23rd. Um, and it's almost closing time, but I really, truly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope that tonight's show gave you some information and also some inspiration. It is okay to, you know, to give a kidney or an organ, even if you're not a living one. Sign up to be an organ donor. You have no idea how many lives you could save. I read a lot of stories about how people have donated, their heart and the eyes and tissue, and how they have saved, countless lives. So it's something to think about. I'm not telling you to go out right now and do it, based off some kind of emotional decision, but it's I think it's something to think about. And even if you don't do it, at least think about it. You know, like I said, you never know whose life you will save. So again, I thank each and every one of you all. I will be back next week with another edition of One on One with Uncle David. I will see you all Thursday night for Live with Uncle David. Oh, it is my absolute pleasure, Olivia, and I would do it again and again. Like I said, hopefully we can get you all together next year and celebrate the Big Ten here. So I thank you all. I love you all. I will see you all on Thursday. And until then, be happy on purpose and know that I believe in you, believe in you too. Good night, everybody.